Hi, I'm Kes Wilkie and this is a residency I've been doing at the SVA for the past 2 weeks. I like to sort of make work between sort of mainly drawing and sculpture. I'd say that I sort of have a kind of practice that's sort of split into kind of equal halves, where I'm sort of, my drawing practice is what I'd kind of describe as a sort of dreaming practice, coming up with ideas, generating them on paper, which are usually sort of kind of strange kind of devices or sort of kind of contraptions that have some kind of kinetic kind of ability, using sort of found objects or household objects, that kind of thing, stuff that seems appropriate in the moment. And then I'd say the other sort of half of my practice is a kind of engineering, sculptural practice. I'm able to sort of try and fabricate the things that I make in the drawings out of what I can find and what I can sort of put together. I mainly sort of keep my ideas in a sketchbook. I have a bit of a habit of kind of flitting between sketchbooks and notebooks, sort of whatever's to hand. I sort of put down an idea whenever it kind of comes to me in any of these sketchbooks, and just sort of I often repeat the same drawing like loads of times to kind of try and tweak it in my mind before I try tackling it as a sculpture. So yeah, I'd say the sketchbook's really useful for keeping ideas together like that. Whilst I'm making work, I'm always sort of listening to stuff. I'd say I mainly sort of listen to Indian classical music, like ragas and that kind of thing. I sort of picked up the sitar to start learning to play it a few years ago, and then sort of at the same time I started listening to it all. I also like to listen to a band called Spacemen 3. It's quite sort of heavy, kind of droning guitars, and I think it probably has an influence on my work because it's a lot of that kind of sort of cyclical, rhythmic stuff with the mechanisms I'm working with, so I think it seems to go hand in hand. So within the 2 weeks that I've been here, almost all the work that I've been making has had some kind of kinetic element, and for me that's really sort of the heart of the kind of the matter for me, is sort of, in a way it's like sort of trying to animate my drawings. For me there's not really much of a kind of wealth in the concept. It feels quite empty to me. For me it's more about the effect of what happens when I try to kind of animate these objects. It's really a process for me of making the drawings and then trying to animate that in a sense, or manifest it kind of sculpturally, and seeing what happens. I think for me the motivation behind a lot of these works is a kind of sense of excitement. It's something that happens with the kind of conception of the idea when it kind of hits me. I'm trying to keep that excitement alive whilst I'm creating it and making it more of a sculpture. And it feels hard to do that a lot of the time because it often kind of loses the kind of magic that it feels like it has when it's a drawing, and the kind of potential to be anything. So yeah, it's sort of a bit of a battle with that, with trying to keep that kind of magic that I find there is, keep it alive and sort of see where it goes, really. I think if there was one artist that I could sort of show my work to, it would be a Swiss artist called Roman Signa. I never really think about my work in terms of other artists that much, but I think I really like his work because he uses like quite dramatic, kind of dangerous, volatile materials, often like explosions and things being propelled like really high speed, and I think there's something really exciting about that and the potential with those kind of kinetic kind of moments. It certainly changed the way that I sort of started working a while back when I found out about his stuff. So yeah, I'm not sure if he'd like my stuff, but I'd be interested to know what he'd think at least. So, yeah. Something that's quite important for me whilst I'm working as a kind of object outside of myself, I'd say that probably my bicycle is quite important. I kind of use it, obviously whilst I've been working here, I've been using it to get to and fro my home, and sort of using it to pick up materials. So for that purpose, I think it's like really useful as a sort of means to be a bit more sort of fluid with how I work. so I don't feel kind of stuck in my kind of work environment. I think something else that's quite important for me whilst I work is definitely using vices and clamps. I like to sort of have a collection of them so that I really use them to sort of tether down the kind of like fragile kind of quality of some of my work. It just sort of enables me to sort of not have to worry about how something's really going to work, because I can just sort of whack it in a clamp and then it sort of stays put on the ground, which is really great. Because it's been locked down and people aren't really allowed in the gallery where I've been working, I've sort of really noticed the kind of interaction that you can have with people on a non-verbal basis, having to exchange a lot of thumbs up and that kind of thing. So it's nice to sort of be friendly in that kind of way, but it's sort of, yeah, I think it's been nice to know that I don't have to really explain my work so much to people that are kind of coming across it. They can take what they want from it. Without being able to have kind of conversations about the work that I've been making, it's interesting to think that maybe there's some kind of connection that's happening between viewers in an unspoken way. I think that's sort of a rare opportunity, really. I found the residency really useful for kind of changing up my practice a bit. So I've noticed over lockdown I've sort of struggled with being able to make work at home. Sort of feeling the need to separate things I do at home, and often making work doesn't really find its way in there. So it's been really useful to have a different space and a new set of people around and other practitioners and artists. So yeah, it's been quite inspirational in that way.